Slavery in the United States was a deeply entrenched institution that lasted from the early colonial period until the end of the Civil War in 1865. Rooted in the transatlantic slave trade, which began in the 16th century, slavery in the U.S. primarily involved the forced labor of African people and their descendants. Over time, slavery became concentrated in the southern states, where it was integral to the agricultural economy, particularly for crops like cotton, tobacco, rice, and sugarcane. Colonial era. African slaves were first brought to North America in the early 1600s, initially to the Virginia colony. Over the next 2 centuries, the institution grew, and by the 18th century, slavery was entrenched in many colonies. In the southern United States, the plantation system was labor-intensive. The need for cheap labor to cultivate cash crops, particularly cotton, after the invention of the cotton gin in 1793, solidified the demand for slaves. By 1860, nearly 4 million enslaved people lived in the southern states. Slave laws, known as slave codes, were created to control and oppress African Americans. These laws denied slaves basic rights and treated them as property rather than people. They were forbidden from learning to read or write, marrying legally, or owning property. Life for slaves was brutal and dehumanizing. Most lived in small cabins, worked long hours in harsh conditions, and were subject to physical violence and sexual exploitation. Family separation was common, as owners could sell slaves at any time. Slaves employed various forms of resistance, both passive and active. Passive resistance. Slaves often resisted through small acts like slowing down work, feigning illness, or sabotaging equipment. This covert resistance helped to undermine the institution while maintaining personal dignity. Cultural resistance. Enslaved people preserved their African heritage through music, religious practices, and storytelling. Spirituals and other forms of folk culture became a means of expressing hope, despair, and resistance. Escape and rebellion. Many slaves sought freedom by running away, often with the help of networks like the Underground Railroad. This was a secret system of safe houses and abolitionists, such as Harriet Tubman, who helped slaves escape to the north. Larger-scale slave revolts, such as Nat Turner's Rebellion in 1831, highlighted the slaves' desire for freedom, though these uprisings were often met with brutal repression. The abolitionist movement grew alongside slavery, with people of different races and social backgrounds calling for an end to the institution. Key individuals such as Frederick Douglass, an escaped slave and powerful orator, and William Lloyd Garrison, a white abolitionist and founder of the Liberator, played prominent roles in advocating for the end of slavery. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video informative, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more historical deep dives. Let me know in the comments what other topics you'd like me to cover. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.